Hello, and thank you for joining us on Brenda Williams' Red Hot Communication Podcast, where we answer questions like, are you fire, ice, or too nice? Our shows teach you how to become an expert communicator, where you discover what you truly want, how to ask for it, and actually get it. Stay tuned to empower yourself and start creating the career you want. And now, here is Brenda Williams with today's message.
Hello, this is Brenda, and I'm excited to have Brenda Trujillo with me today as my guest on the podcast where we're going to talk about who gets hired and promoted. Brenda owns her own HR consulting company, and she's become a good friend of mine and has a wealth of information to share. So I'm so excited to have you here today, Brenda.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to be here as well.
We're going to have fun with this. And once we get rolling, we'll get relaxed, and we're just going to share our years of wisdom with people on what's happening in the world behind the scenes. What's it take to really get hired? And we'll go into getting promoted as well. So depending on where you're at in your career, there's going to be lots of good stuff here for you. So I know, Brenda, when you and I spoke, you said the first impressions are everything. What did you mean by that?
Everything from the telephone conversation that you have with a recruiter, how you present yourself when you first walk in through the door, how you speak, your handshake. Having a weak handshake, believe it or not, is not something that you want to portray. You want to have a strong, firm handshake. And when you say dress your best, always dress what's appropriate to the company. I had a gentleman who was having a interview with a high-end surf company, and he came in a three-piece suit. Very inappropriate for that location.
Oh yeah.
He could have he immediately when the CEO looked at him, he went, "He's in a three-piece suit. He is not going to fit in here." Whereas
it's important. Sometimes you don't even realize that the companies have different cultures. I've had clients say, don't send them out here in a suit.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because they want them to fit in, not just from a personal standpoint, but from a physical standpoint as well. I had a real funny incident where I had someone who said, look, when you tell your candidate to come, make sure they're dressed in their very best. Not a problem. I talked to the candidate, and I told her this is the position. It's for a receptionist. You want to come in your very best. And my client then called me up in hysterics. And I said, what's wrong? What's going on? And she said, you told her to dress the very best, didn't you? And I said, well, yes, I did. She showed up in a wedding dress. I was like, what? She said it was her absolute best.
Oh,
so use some common sense. That's a huge one.
And common sense is different for each person. You know, I used to say wear a suit, but I don't really say that anymore because not many companies wear suits. But if you can do your research and learn about the company, and if you're lucky enough to work with a recruiter that can really guide you, then that's awesome. But sometimes I'm talking to people and they have no clue what they're walking into. And so I always try to say, be in the middle, wear a button-up shirt and a nice pair of slacks and a suit jacket so you can take that off. You don't need a tie. You can fit in and be more casual if you need to. But sometimes it's a guess. It's a stab in the dark. And so you got to kind of be in the middle and be prepared. Wear something that can go with any environment. So, yeah, that's something that's interesting because what one thinks is their best and another is very different. It's a little, people that know me and look at my website, they see that I have bright red hair. Well, I actually had someone along the way say, would you mind changing your hair color?
Wow.
And that was a choice. I said, no. But we do make choices about our looks. What kind of jewelry are we wearing? These days, piercings aren't really always seen and as a good thing, especially, I know you worked at Disney a lot. People that have piercings have to cover them for Disney and tattoos, right?
That's correct. A good way to check out the culture is check out the website for the company that you're interviewing with. It will give you such insight as to the kind of culture that is, and it's both visual as well as what they're saying on the website as to what their mission is and what their vision is. So that will give you a really good idea as to how professional needs you to be, how more relaxed you can be. Always go with the middle is what I recommend. But if you go onto a website and you see that everybody on the website's professionally dressed, that's going to give you a clue to come to the interview professionally dressed. If you go to the website and you see everyone's more business casual, then that will give you a clue to go more business casual.
Yes. But to one person, and I coach a lot of different people on career coaching, what one person considers casual is different from the next. So it's so important to do that research online, and not just for the dress code, but to understand the people. And that's a big part of what I work with individuals on is who are you going to be meeting with? So researching them to the 10th degree and using all the resources that are available to you is crucial, because how you present yourself on the interview needs to be modified based on who you're speaking to. Now, you've been in HR over the years, right?
Absolutely. I worked with the Walt Disney Company for almost 20 years. So having to deal with so many different personalities and so many positions and yet trying to fit them all into one very unique culture can be difficult. But there are some differentiators.
Like what?
Well, you can always tell when someone's looked up the individual. You want to, they're looking at the individual they're interviewing with, because they find a common bond. And that is it could be something as simple as being an Angel fan or Dodger fan and having that camaraderie right away, going, I went to the game, or I saw the game, did you see this game? And it immediately opens up conversation, making them not only the interviewer, but the interviewee at ease. When you go into their office, if you don't have the opportunity to check them out online, look at the pictures speak volumes about the person's personality. They're going to have pictures of their family. They're going to have pictures of things that they've done or have done. Look at them and find those commonalities. And even something that you've never thought you'd want to do, such as White River rafting, but it's an opportunity for you to strike up a conversation to show the real person, your personality, that you're more than just a book, more than just a piece of paper, more than just a pencil, that you have, that you're a person. And that's so important, because more often than not, people are hiring for the personality, not so much the skill set, because you've already proven your skill set. It's one of those differentiators that make you stand out as to whether or not I'm going to get along with this person.
Yeah, so true. The relationship building is crucial. And I talk to so many people that are fearful of the interview. They're not coming across with confidence when I first start meeting with them, and they really don't know how to answer the interview questions appropriately. And they don't even know that they can ask questions during the interview, which is so important. That's how you get to know who you're talking to and what's important to them, so that you can modify your approach. So connecting with them and building that relationship, so it becomes more of a conversation about how you can help them and support them versus, let me just find out if you're the right candidate.
Right. Absolutely.
You connect and build that rapport. I had someone that was interviewing on a panel interview, and they had 3 different people. There was a technical person interviewing, there was an HR person, and there was, believe it or not, a psychologist. And I said, we need to prepare you to speak to each individual. So you know firsthand what are HR people really paying attention to.
And they're all looking for 3 very different things. Your HR person's looking for compliance. Your psychologist is looking for how would you fit within the culture of the organization? And then the manager is looking for technical skills.
Exactly.
So you have to be able to answer to each one of those individuals one-on-one, as well as, but yet speaking to them as a group. And it's so important that you answer the person's question who asked the question. So if it's HR's person's answering the question, you want to directly answer to her or him, and then also answer to the group. In other words, you direct your first part of your answer should be directed to the person who asked the question, and then expand to the rest of the group to how they would understand the answer to your question, because they may not understand the answer they may not understand the question that is given by that certain professional, because that's their expertise. So you have to put it in such a manner to where the entire group can understand and not just one individual. It's kind of tricky.
Yeah, it is. And I always say it's like a dance. So when I go over the types of questions to ask those people to learn more about each individual person, I prepare people to be able to ask questions with almost any interview question they get. And we work on the open-ended questions. And you don't always do that, though. You have it prepared, and if it makes sense and you can squeeze it in, I love it because you can really learn more about them and their needs and their challenges and what they're looking for, so that you can package yourself in the appropriate way. And you learn to dance. It's like, which story should I share based on their needs and challenges? Which accomplishment should I share? What are they going to be most interested in? And you mentioned what they're going to ask you, different types of interview questions. You'd be surprised, and you've probably seen this over the years. I'll ask an interview question, and people will start answering it, and then they go down what I call the rabbit hole. And before you know it, they're up on a tangent about something completely different. And when I'm coaching people, I say, what was the question I just asked? And in the beginning, more often than not, they have forgotten the question because they're so nervous, and they've built this hole for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's, go ahead. It's so important, though, to tell a story, but make your story short and sweet and to the point.
Yeah, I agree. And
you want to have the illustrations when you have an answer, but you need to make them short and to the point. And that sometimes takes some practice.
It does take practice, and it takes some preparation. I mean, I have a 3-part exercise. The first one is make that list. And here's a good tip for all of you. Make a list of your strengths. And then tell me why you're good at that strength and why you're better at it than the next person they're going to interview. And it can be part of your character. As you mentioned, they're looking at your character. It can be your soft skills. It can be your technical skills. But every time you mention a strength, it should be geared towards what are they looking for? How will it help you be successful in this particular position? And most importantly, you have to attach those stories, like Brenda said. And the story, I like to say, I have people write out their stories, and I'll have like a half a page story, and then they are trying to tell me that. And so firsthand, you only have so much time in an interview. So you have to take that long story and turn it into bullet points. And on those bullet points, you really want key words that really focus on why you're the best person for the job. And
I think on the flip side of that, sorry to interrupt, but that is an important question, but more importantly is, what are your weaknesses? And that's the one you really have to be prepared for. So many times when I've asked that question, what are your weaknesses? It comes off as, well, I sometimes talk too much, or I sometimes take too long to do a job or a project. My boss sometimes complains, and then they go into a tangent of how is it really their fault? So that it's really everybody else's fault they couldn't complete a project, which then tells the hiring manager, this is somebody who can't complete tasks. This is someone who is not focused. So when you come to that question of what are my weaknesses, make sure you're prepared with a statement, because we all have a weakness, but have it with a positive twist. A common one is a lot of people have not finished their education. So what is your weakness, Brenda? Well, my weakness is I haven't completed my education. My goal is to complete my education while still working, so I will be able to use the skill sets that I learned in school and apply them in my job. Well, that is it's a negative, but it's positive at the same time. You see it's something they're working on, they're striving for, that they see this as something that they could prove upon their person. So when you say, I'm disorganized, that's the last thing they want to hear you say. However, if you say, my challenge is sometimes I have the inability, sometimes I'll forget things. And so I make sure to remedy that. I keep careful lists and I checklist everything I do. So that way at the end of the day, so I don't forget anything, I make sure I have everything marked off and everything is appropriate. So if it's a negative, always end it with a positive and how it's integrated and how it's a positive thing within the workplace.
That is so true. And it really depends on also the position. I was just coaching somebody today who's going for a very high-level role. Now, we always put ourselves in the shoes of the people that are doing the hiring. What is most important to them? And where does his true strengths and character really relate to that? So one of the things we came up is his weakness is that he's very driven. And the reason that's a weakness is because driven controller achiever personalities are very results oriented, but at the same time, they have to sometimes slow down because everybody can't keep up, or they have to take time to build those relationships and that rapport with people. So for the drivers and the controller achievers out there, I'm sure you can relate to this. It's about check, check, check. I got to get results. Sometimes they forget to go have lunch and coffee and spend that time with people. And so the company that's hiring him, they're going to be looking for someone that's driven and results oriented and can get things done. So that weakness turns into a positive for him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's pretty cool. I find that the weaknesses messes up the best of them. I got messed up in that over 20 plus years ago, and I've never forgotten it. On a panel interview where they said, what are your weaknesses? And I had not prepared, and my answer was, I don't have any weaknesses. Until this day, I laugh every time I think about that moment in my life because I just didn't know. I didn't know any better. I hadn't thought about it, and it's one that messes up most everybody because they don't know how to. That's what
trips up more people.
Yeah, it really, really does. The other one is to tell me about yourself. Tell me about yourself.
Oh, my goodness.
The things we've heard.
Have you ever heard of the phrase TMI? Too much information.
That is for sure. It's hilarious for me to ask people, even not even in an interview, you can just walk around and say, oh, who are you? Tell me about yourself. And most people don't know where to start. They don't know what to say, and then they'll start rambling. I mean, I was interviewing someone the other day or helping them get prepared, doing career coaching, and the first thing said, well, I'm from Orange County. I have 3 kids. I'm married. And I said, how does that relate to winning this job opportunity? And not that it's not good to be a little personal and get to know people and share a little bit of your personal side, but it's very important to utilize that time to subtly sell what your strengths are, what you're capable of, and why you're the right person for the job. That's your prime moment.
And believe it or not, and I'd like to say that this doesn't happen, it does happen, is people do discriminate. And they discriminate based off when you start saying, I have 3 kids and they're all in elementary school or one's in preschool, whether the interviewer realizes or not, they've already have questions in their mind. Is she going to show up? Is there childcare issues? And even on the flip side, with so many individuals taking care of their parents. Yes, I live with my parents. I take care of my mom and dad. Okay, again, are we going to looking into health issues? Are we going to somebody who's going to miss work because of family? Or it's better to say, family is important to me. I spend a lot of time with my family without being specific as to whether it's a mom, a dad, a son, a daughter, a husband, significant other, whatever it may be. It just, I love spending time with my family. We like to go camping. We love to go out, do the outdoor stuff. Not giving any kind of specifics as to what your family life looks like. You just let them know that family is important to you. When you're also interviewing, you want to don't
connection.
Exactly. And that's where you have that personal piece. So when you interview, I'll tell you, I have more respect for the individual who comes in and you say, tell me about yourself, where, they start with their elementary school and they start with this and how they've gotten to their, they excelled in this, excelled in that. And you want to stick to your career.
The rest of the message is coming your way in just a few moments. But first, we want to take a moment to thank you for being with us for today's broadcast. For over 20 years, Brenda has coached, consulted, and trained, and during that time, she's seen and heard it all. She knows firsthand what it takes to create the career you want, and her goal is to provide you with the necessary tools to get there. We invite you to start your journey today. Visit BrendaWilliamsA.com and get your free career assessment and success roadmap. The rest of the message is coming your way.
And stick it to where it's most relatable with the job you're applying for. So I graduated from UCLA. I fell into human resources. It was a fluke. There was an opportunity within my organization. I went for it. I talked to the managers, told them my interests, told them my goals, and from there my career developed.
Very good.
I then accomplished, and then talk about the things that you highlight. This is your opportunity to brag about the things, your highlights that you've accomplished. If you're the person that implemented a system that's still being used today, talk about it.
Well, I can't agree more. And then I like to add to that because I'm big on really kind of trying to connect. So I think the tell me about yourself is the best one to try to connect at the beginning. And I can tell you when you do this and you do it well, it becomes more of a conversation than it does a grilling interview. And so one of the things I like to do is when I used to interview and they would say, tell me about yourself, I'd kind of smile and give them a little bit of personality and say, well, that could be a long story. Where do you want me to begin? And I would say, do you want me to tell you a little bit about my personal life, who I am as an individual? Do you want to know about my career history? Where would you like me to start? And it's kind of cool because no matter who you're talking to, some people do want to know who you are personally. Others really just care about the business side, depending on who they are, their own personality style, and what their needs and desires are. So if you ask that question, you can kind of get a pulse on what's important to them so you can focus your answer towards what their needs are.
Absolutely. And you can also get a little bit of a personality reading of the individuals. That if you're fortunate enough, go on LinkedIn and find out about the person that you're interviewing, and their profile will tell you volumes. If it's somebody who has a lot of information on their profile, that's someone who likes to talk. That's someone who really wants to know the big picture, who really enjoys conversation and really learning about another individual. If you go on to LinkedIn and you see the person you're interviewing with has very short bullets, short, sweet, and to the point, then that's somebody who was going to want those type of answers, short, sweet, to the point. So looking at that dialogue will really help you when you're actually communicating verbally with that individual.
Very true. And I'm big on the questions. So the first thing I teach people is, what's the question you're going to ask when they say, tell me about yourself? And I use that as an opportunity once I give my answer is, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And I might say, I researched, I looked up on LinkedIn, you've been here for a few years. What's that been like? What do you love about the company? And some people will really open up to that and start telling you about I've been here for a few years. I love it. This job's a dream come true. And you have to pay attention to the personality style, because some people are more open than others. And so some people will let their guard down and open up to this full-on conversation, and others will be a little bit more maybe standoffish. But the goal is not to let it ruffle your feathers or your confidence level. Just recognize you're going to deal with different personality styles, different types of people, and no matter how they react, you have to remain calm and confident. But still try to connect, because there is a way to connect with every human being if you can just find that one thing.
Mm-hmm. And also, you need to make sure that you have to realize that you're interviewing them as well. Because to get a job within a company that you think is what you want, and once you walk in the door, may not be everything you really wanted. So it's important in that dialogue to ask questions. I interviewed for a position, and come to find out that the position, when I asked how long the position had been open, it had been open for over a year and a half. I asked what took so long to hire in this position, what was the differentiator there, what was going on. Come to find out, they had five HR people in that role in the last year, that they couldn't keep anybody in that position. When I asked why was no one staying in this position, come to find out, the owner of the organization had no value of HR, dismissed everything they said, and at the end of the day, I walked out going, this would be a really cool job for somebody else, because it was not kind of the location I want to work at. So don't be afraid to ask those questions that seem like tough questions, but it's important, because then it's going to tell the interviewer that you really care about where you want to work.
Very true. I mean, you want to make sure it's the right role for you, for sure. I have a little different spin on top of that. Is when I years ago used to be interviewing, I made it a personal challenge to get an offer everywhere I went. And I recommend that to my clients today. And the reason being is not many people have had the opportunity to really go through the full cycle of interviewing, getting a job offer, negotiating the offer, and really getting what they want, the package that they want. And if you have 2 or 3 offers on the table, you're in the driver's seat. You get to really make decisions a little differently versus just take that first job that comes your way. It builds your confidence. I see that when people can get that offer, they feel a lot better about themselves. The little ego and the gremlin that creeps in, calms down a bit. And they're like, I got this. I can do this. And that confidence, I can see it on people's faces. One of my favorite clients came today. When he first came to me a few months back, because he's going for a role that will double his income. And a year ago, he had failed the interview. And so he knew he needed help this time around. And we've been working together for a few months because it's so crucially important. He is really practicing everything to be good at what he does during this interview. But what was interesting to me, I told him the other day, I feel like a proud mommy, because if I had a before and after shot of how he is when he shows up, it's just like unbelievable. I mean, he used to come in here, and I kid you not, the sweat would be beading on his forehead because he was so nervous. And you can tell if someone's sweating, that could be part of their nerves and how well they can handle stress and what's stressing them out, and maybe they're not comfortable. But when you practice, I mean, this is a guy that comes in a suit. Now, he's going for a role where a suit's required. Every interview he comes to, he comes in a suit. Now, he doesn't have to come here. We're doing role playing. He could come casual in his shorts. But he says, I want to take this seriously, and I want to get comfortable, not only in what I say, but in the outfit that I wear. He shows up so professional, like he is ready. And it's like amazing the transformation that I've seen with the practice that he's done. And everything we're talking about, from the tell me about yourself to the how do you understand your audience and what are they really asking you, to be able to explain your strengths and your weaknesses. And practice the tell me about yourself question, be able to modify it depending on who you're talking to. He has really mastered it, and it's so rewarding when I can see that transformation. It's so cool. So it definitely is a skill set. Not many people have really been taught. I was working with a young adult the other day just out of college, and she said, they don't teach you this in school. And it's a shame that they don't, but it doesn't matter whether you're 24 or 54. Most everybody I talk to has not mastered this skill set. And the funny part is it's pretty easy to do. And when you practice it and you role play it and you get feedback, it makes a huge difference in your confidence, how you come across, and how you can finesse your approach. And then you can get the 3 job offers on the table, which is a pretty good place to be. So I think with that, we'll take a little commercial break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about how does the personality and the emotional intelligence play into all of this. We'll be back in a moment.
Okay.
All right, we're back. So let's see, Brenda. Let's pick a topic. Emotional intelligence. How do you think emotional intelligence plays into the interview process?
Very much so. That is something that it's what defines who's going to fit into the culture and who is not. Being able to have that kind of a relationship, creating that relationship, being able to have and think on the same wavelength as your potential boss is so important, because they want to have confidence when they want to run an idea by you, when you want to talk about changes that may happen in the organization. They want someone who's going to be aligned with them and not someone who is going to be necessarily, yes, they want someone they can teach and learn if it's an entry level, but if it's something more higher level position, you want that person to be your partner, not necessarily just a peer.
And what do you think are the key elements to showing them that you can align with them?
Conversations, first of all. Finding those common grounds, whether it's something that's personal or it's something that's professional. You know, the alliance that you hear, UCLA and USC. There are the 2 schools. Whether you USC or I can go in and I can be with somebody from USC and I'm UCLA. We can have a little bit of bantering, a little bit of competition, internal competition, because that's just where we come from. But we make it very positive because we have the same goal and objective. So defining what that is. What is our goal? What is our objective? How are we to get there? What is your role? What is my role? How do I help you be successful? Those are some things that you have those questions with your leader, and you partner. And once you partner with them, great things can happen within the organization, and they don't see you just necessarily as an individual, but also as a power team.
Very, very true. And you mentioned earlier the first words out of your mouth was conversation and common ground. And the only way to figure that out is to turn it into a conversation, not just them asking you interview questions. So that's why I go back to asking those types of open-ended questions you threw out. And they were awesome, because most people I say, do you know what an open-ended question is? And some will say, yeah. I go, what are they? And they'll go, who, what? And I'll be like, who, what, when, where, why, how, and tell me more? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's it. I go, but if you can't remember the words, how are you asking the questions? And you just rattled off a bunch. Let's do that again, because I thought they were really great. You said, what is your role and what are your goals? How can I help you be successful? Tell me some others you mentioned. I thought they were fantastic.
What are the goals and objectives? What are we trying to accomplish? You know, what is your role and what is my role, and how do we create something great? What is set the expectations is huge. telling you that way when you have a roadmap, a defined roadmap, then there's this. It's like, how many times have we have gotten mad at the guy who's driving who doesn't want to look at the directions, and we're like, "Hon, you've got GPS on your phone. We've got a map in the glove compartment box. We can go ask the guy at the gas station." But no, they just want to keep going, and they end up getting lost. We actually went on a walk 3 days ago. A good friend of mine and we went on a walk, and we just moved to the neighborhood. We both forgot our phones, and we got lost in the neighborhood we just moved into.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And we're like, what do we do? Where do we go? And it was like, you ask him. No, I asked. I ended up having to flag down a really kind lady who looked at us kind of strange, because how could either one of you not have a phone or a map? And she guided us back to our house. But it's just something so simple. I take the dog for a walk. We should be able to get back home, right? It's a neighborhood I'm familiar with. We bought a place here, right? But yet we still got lost. And had we had our road maps with us, aka our phones, we would have found our way back. And that's so important when you're talking about a project, when you're talking about the job or what needs to be accomplished. Having that roadmap. That roadmap could be a job description. It could be a project that you want to accomplish. It's a one-off from something that you're already doing. But taking the time to define what the goal is, what is your end goal, what do you want to accomplish, and define who's going to do what. And it may be the manager saying, you're doing it all. How is it happening? How are you going to achieve these goals? And his role or her role may be to daily check-ins, monthly check-ins, may be able to help you with resources to be able to achieve your goal, have open communication, having a regular meeting. Those are the things. So you set expectations so you can be successful in whatever you're trying to accomplish or achieve.
Yeah, that's so true. And the roadmap is crucial. And you can start preparing that ahead of time by, you mentioned all that research. You can start getting a feel based on, all the things you mentioned, back to looking at the company, looking at LinkedIn, researching on the internet, find out the values and the mission statement. If you can get the names of who you're meeting with, you research them, you find out what they're all about. The roadmap can begin right up front, but those questions, those open-ended questions make a big difference. Not only do you get to connect, but they learn about who you are. It becomes more of that relationship building opportunity, and they can learn about who you are and how you think just by the questions you ask. So learning to ask good open-ended questions during the interview changes the game and gets you a lot more job offers out there. So there you have it. Today we've talked about the first impressions, some of the interview tips and tricks, some of the downfalls of sliding questions that can really get you in trouble, and preparing the right questions to build a relationship, a connection, all the way through to the roadmap. Now it's a relationship. Now you're talking about what you can bring to the table. You can talk about the solutions, the achievements. You can present yourself accordingly. And the game just changes. It's pretty amazing when I see people be able to create this type of approach. It's like night and day. And if you've never watched The Job Interview, that's a new show on TV. I highly recommend it because I watched it the other day for the first time and I was cracking up because it was a simple little show about they were interviewing and they filmed this whole thing. So they were interviewing 4 girls and it was to work at a dog grooming mobile company. So real simple job. And you had girls that some had never groomed dogs at all before. One, I think, had experience. But it was so eye-opening to watch the 4 people and how they showed up in the interview. One of the girls actually said, this is hilarious. The question was, what is it that you would like, I think, least about this role? Or what do you like least about, your job? And she said, working with people. Working with people. And although she's going to be working with dogs, she still has to greet the dog's owners and build rapport with them. So that just immediately moved her to the bottom of the list, and she didn't even realize what she had done. So I've worked with people of all ages. I mean, I don't care if you're 20 or 60. Holding up a mirror and having someone really give you feedback on how you're coming across and the little nuances of the things we can say without even realizing it can make all the difference on how many opportunities come your way. So finessing it, massaging your words to a T makes a big difference. And not only the job you get, but negotiating the salary upwards, So it's a competitive marketplace. You've got to be the best at what you do. So take these tips, take these little tricks, and go at it. And if you want further support, reach out to us. And if you need any HR consulting, Brenda, go ahead and give them your phone number or your website, whatever you prefer.
You can reach me at 562-888-9191, or you can go on my website, which is bowenmyers.com.
Yeah. And I'm always here to help you with your life leadership and career coaching, consulting, and training as well. So it's been fun having you, Brenda. I think we need to do a part 2 of this so we can go ahead and talk about all the other things and the stories we've seen and what it takes to go ahead and really move it to the next level. I mean, I think we could talk about this all day long with the stories we've both had in the last...
Oh, yes.
I won't even say how many years. But thanks for coming on. It was a lot of fun. I hope this helps a lot of you out there. When this information is turned into preparation and being applied, it's a life changer. And I wish you all the best of luck.
Thanks for being with us for today's broadcast. Be sure to check out BrendaWilliamsA.com and connect with her through social media. While you are there, remember to sign up for her free career assessment and take a look at all the helpful resources. Again, that's BrendaWilliamsA.com. Join us next time as we share more on how you can continue to showcase your value and create the career of your dreams. This program is sponsored by Brenda Williams, a world of opportunity.